Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sparta Board of Education meeting, March 18th, 2021. The Sparta Board of Education regular meeting is called to order at 7:34 p.m. Vanessa, would you please read the meeting notice announcement?
Sure. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Sparta Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be advertised by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Sparta Board of Education office, 18 Mohawk Avenue, as designated by the Board of Education for posting of such notice in a public place. Written notice was emailed on March 3rd, 2021 to the Daily Record, the Sparta Independent, tapintosparta.net, and to the Township Clerk, specifying the date, time, and place of this meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, roll call, please.
Ms. Bragg?
Here.
Ms. Grana?
Here.
Ms. Grano? Mr. McGovern?
Here.
Hold, excuse me, Mr. Smith. Is Ms. Grano here via live stream? Rachel? Is she on?
She should be unmuted now.
She should be unmuted. Okay, so I'm sorry, Neve, if you're on and listening, we need you to unmute yourself. Jen, can you read who's on there? I can't read.
I see Rachel,
That's not-
Susan,
There?
and Amber.
There you go.
Hello?
There we go. There we go. Thank you, Neve. Mr. Smith, can you resume the roll call, starting with Neve Grano?
Go to me. Start with Mrs. Grano again.
Ms. Grano?
Here.
Mr. McGovern?
Here.
Ms. Madison?
Here.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Dr. Serrano?
Here.
Ms. Sorensen?
Here.
Dr. Zawicki?
Please join me in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we are not going into closed session this evening, so we're skipping sections 2 and 3. Moving on to section number 4, district recognition. Mr. McQueenie, would you like to take that?
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Bragg. Good evening, everybody. This is a very special night in any normal year and is probably more special given the circumstances and to the great lengths that our teachers have demonstrated their abilities, their dedication, and their passion to teach our students. We are very fortunate this evening to be honoring the Governor Educators of the Year Award for each of our 5 buildings. We do have many of our honorees here with us in person. The public cannot see it, but the board can see we do have 2 of our honorees here with us virtually, so thank you, Dr. Lorenz and Mrs. Kopman, for attending virtually. This evening, we're going to start with the high school, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Ron Spring to come up and present this year's SHS Governor Educators of the Year winners.
Good evening, and hi Sue, hi Amber. So I'm going to start off with Amber. It's my honor to introduce Amber Kopman as Sparta High School's Governor's Teacher of the Year. Mrs. Kopman was chosen for Teacher of the Year, not only for her commitment to her students, but also to her own professional growth. Within the classroom, Mrs. Kopman maintains high standards and has designed her class in a way that allows students to take ownership. High-level discussions and debates are hallmarks of her classes, as well as interactive projects and experiences. Mrs. Kopman created a new English elective, Introduction to Journalism, designed to expose students to the various types of journalistic writing, but more importantly, to the ethics involved with presenting the news. An extension of the journalism program is the TEDx Club, in which students orally present their research findings to an audience of students across the country. Last winter, Mrs. Kottman attended the TED Ed Weekend in New York City with 5 students who embraced the opportunity to share their ideas with a diverse student population from around the world. Finally, in her AP seminar course, the first course in the AP Capstone program, Mrs. Kottman teaches and mentors her students to research through various lenses and perspectives, guiding them to solutions and high-level critical thinking about the world around them. Every student in last year's AP seminar cohort achieved the passing score, surpassing New Jersey and global means. In addition to helping her students grow as independent, global citizens, Mrs. Kottman has immersed herself in her own professional development. She was chosen to be an AP reader by College Board for the AP seminar exam. She also presented at the National Convention for the National Council of Teachers of English. Her commitment to improve her craft and growing as a professional continues to serve the students of Sparta High School, and she is a major asset to our entire school community. We are honored to present Amber Kottman as our Teacher of the Year. And Amber, when you're back, you will have this waiting for you in your room, and it's very well deserved. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Sue Lorenz. Dr. Lorenz is the ideal candidate for Sparta High School Governor's Educational Services Professional of the Year. Dr. Lorenz serves as the lead coordinator and clinician of the high school's West Mountain Academy program, a program which primarily services students who typically require more intensive therapeutic school services. She also serves as the lead clinician for Sparta High School's Aligned program, which is a model counseling program designed to support the entire student and staff population's mental wellness, in addition to being the high school's alternative to suspension program. Despite these 2 major responsibilities, Dr. Lorenz is one of the first staff members who volunteers to help in any aspect of the school on a day-to-day basis. While the administration is keenly aware of the great things that Dr. Lorenz does on a daily basis, the fact that all of her colleagues teamed up to jointly nominate her speaks volumes about Dr. Lorenz's impact at Sparta High School. According to her colleagues, you can not only see the attachment that Dr. Lorenz has with her students, but you can also feel how much she cares about them. According to another colleague, Dr. Lorenz's presence and engagement with students is inspiring and genuine. In fact, it is Dr. Lorenz's students, many of them who have known her since preschool, who say it best when describing her and all she means to Sparta High School. Comments such as, Dr. Lorenz is such a sweet, loving, and caring person. When someone is down, she helps them up, and just her smile makes everyone happy. Dr. Lorenz is such a kind and caring woman who goes out of her way to help students in need. She is very comforting, and whenever I need someone to talk to, she is always there and very honest and relatable. And finally, there have been times when I was struggling with something in the moment. She has taken time out of her own personal life to help me through these situations and make sure I feel okay again. If something good happens in my life, I know she'll always be so excited to hear about it and celebrates every accomplishment, in or out of school. I know I'll always have her as a shoulder to lean on, and I'm able to take comfort in that. And I think, Sue, we've all seen that in you every day. When you add in Dr. Lorenz's extensive involvement in the school community, such as supporting the Sparta Education Foundation, participating in the annual Turkey Trot, assisting with the Special Olympics, and being part of the school climate and crisis committees, it is clear why it is truly my honor to present Dr. Lorenz as our Educational Services Professional of the Year.
Thank you.
Sue, you too will have one of these beautiful certificates waiting for you as well. Have a great night, and thank you for being here virtually.
Thank you, Mr. Spring, and congratulations, Mrs. Kopman and Dr. Lorenz, on a well-deserved honor. I'd like now to introduce Mr. Frank Chaburi, Sparta Middle School Principal, to present the Sparta Middle School Governor Educator of the Year.
Good evening. On behalf of the Sparta Middle School, I am excited to announce this school year's Educator of the Year. Before I introduce our Teacher of the Year, I would like to say that I am proud that the middle school had multiple teachers nominated for this award, and I would like to thank the teachers, parents, and students that nominated these teachers and recognized their achievements. There was, however, only one teacher that was recognized by multiple nominations, one from a parent and one from a colleague. I found this odd because prior to starting at Sparta Middle School, I really only knew a handful of teachers. One of them was Mr. Kopp, and the only reason why I knew Mr. Kopp was from the stories and comments that I heard from his prior students. Some of those comments: "You're lucky because you have Mr. Kopp. I had Mr. Kopp too. He's the best. Mr. Kopp is the best math teacher at Sparta Middle School." When I started at Sparta Middle School 3 years ago, I was finally introduced to this math superstar. I have to say that so far in my experience with Mr. Kopp, I have noticed that he is a strong advocate for all of his students. He not only cares about the academic performance, but also his students' social and emotional well-being, and is one of the first ones to reach out for a student in need of extra support. Mr. Kopp is an active member of the Sparta Middle School community. He is the Emerald Team leader. He is involved in various clubs and activities throughout the school year. And most importantly, he makes a point to create connections with all of his students. In closing, I would like to share a few comments from Mr. Kopp's current students when I asked them, "What do you like best about Mr. Kopp?" Their answers: "Mr. Kopp always makes sure he understands my questions and then makes sure I understand what he is explaining. Mr. Kopp is a really good teacher in how he explains things. Oh, and he has really funny jokes too." My favorite subject is math because Mr. Kopp is my teacher. And on that note, I am proud to present to you the 2021 Sparta Middle School Educator of the Year, Mr. Jason Kopp. And Mr. Kopp will give you your certificate after the board meeting.
Congratulations, Mr. Kopp, a very well-deserved honor for the middle school. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Tracy Rivera, Helen Morgan School Vice Principal, and Mrs. Jennifer Church to present the Helen Morgan School Governor Educator of the Year Awards.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here speaking on behalf of Mr. Lehman, so these words are from him. This past year has presented our community with challenges that we had no experience or blueprint to guide us through. We were tried and tested in so many ways, yet I know that when I am soon able to look back on this experience, I will remember it is my proudest year as principal. Proud of our staff, including those we acknowledge tonight, for providing our students with the comfort, compassion, and support they needed. When I picture this in mind, it is impossible for me not to think of people like Louise Shepard. An active resident and member of the Sparta community, Mrs. Shepard will be completing her 13th year teaching in Sparta. As a teacher, Mrs. Shepard is widely recognized by her commitment to mastering her craft and unwavering belief that every child will achieve success. She sees all forms of challenges and problems as an opportunity for growth and believes her role as teacher is for her students to believe the same, allowing them to develop the sense of agency that we all want our students to discover. Mrs. Shepard has always been this way, and she has served our school community in so many ways, serving on many leadership, school climate, and curriculum committees. She is a mentor to many of our younger staff members who strive to emulate her dedication and professionalism. I think it is also important to recognize that Mrs. Shepard is willing to go to any length to reach her students. Going back to last spring, we recognized that sometimes to reach students, we need to get out of our comfort zone, and Mrs. Shepard did just that, often dressing up in character to get students excited about things like online vocabulary lessons. So I would be remiss to not acknowledge Mrs. Shepard as the HMS Teacher of the Year, but also her alter ego as Mrs. McGillicuddy, a student favorite. Thank you and congratulations to each of you.
I'm here to present the award to Mrs. Stacy Newrohr. I couldn't imagine a school day without Stacy by my side. Stacy is not just a paraprofessional, but a superhero who wears many hats at Helen Morgan. I could write pages, I could sit up here and talk forever about why she deserved to be the Educational Professional of the Year, as she's fully committed to her job. Part of the challenge of being a special education paraprofessional is managing the wide variety of students and their capabilities. Stacy has had some challenging assignments, and those students are truly lucky to have her in their lives. She always believes in her students and never gives up even on the difficult days. She can stay calm and in control through difficult and different situations, which makes the students feel safe and still feel loved. She has intuitive skills to sense underlying issues behind a child's behavior, along with helping them as situations occur. She helps grow the students' self-esteem and their confidence, and her patience is unmatched. She is organized, reliable, and rarely misses a day of work. Her sick bank is probably one of the highest in the district. She is always willing to help others and give advice where needed to other paraprofessionals. During distance learning, she was joining all of my Google Meets and supporting in any way she possibly can. She also completed the training that was offered to her with enthusiasm to learn more about behavior management and apply it right into the classroom. Sparta is truly lucky to have Stacy in the district for almost 20 years, and I've been blessed to have her in my classroom. Congratulations, Stacy Newrohr.
Congratulations, Mrs. Shepard, Mrs. McGillicuddy, and Mrs. Newrohr on your well-deserved honor. I'd now like to introduce Mrs. Laura Trent, Principal, Mohawk Avenue School, to present Mohawk Avenue School's Governor's Educator of the Year.
Good evening. Thank you. Teaching is one of the hardest and most satisfying professions ever. There is no single solution to the question of what makes a great teacher. To those who have never taught, it is difficult to grasp how diverse and dynamic a skill set one needs to succeed in a busy, demanding classroom and virtual setting. For some, these challenges are overwhelming, but not for Brittany Lukich. Brittany shows kindness to her students and all those around her. She makes each and every one of her students feel welcomed and cared for. Brittany is compassionate and models that to the students with her daily actions. Brittany manages the classroom effectively, and this helps students enjoy an organized, structured environment with an emphasis on a positive educational atmosphere that is conducive to learning. Every day, Brittany comes to class prepared to teach. One of the best qualities possessed by Brittany is her willingness to advocate for her students. She makes sure they all get exactly what they need to be successful. She always goes out of her way to be that one special teacher in their lives. A good teacher can change a person's life. Every teacher wants to be able to influence their students to become productive members of society. Achieving this requires exceptional teaching methods and a way to inspire students. This is Mrs. Lukic. Brittany Lukic is a dedicated teacher, one who always goes above and beyond for her students. She truly understands how to meet a student's individual needs and perseveres to find what works best for each student in her class. In her classroom, the students receive meaningful and engaging lessons that are challenging. Mrs. Lukic is a team player and serves as a role model for the other third grade teachers. But what she really conveys to her students is that they have worth. They can learn and they can achieve high goals. A great teacher uncovers hidden treasures, possibilities, and magic right before everyone's eyes. There's a quote by Alfred Dublin that I feel exemplifies Mrs. Lukic as a teacher. He says, "I used to think great teachers inspire you. Now I think I had it wrong. Good teachers inspire you. Great teachers show you how to inspire yourself every day of your life. They don't show you their magic, they show you how to make the magic of your own." Each of us has our own Mrs. Lukic. I thank the teachers we honor today and the many more great teachers in the district who devote their lives to inspiring our children. Thank you and congratulations to all of you. Congratulations, Brittany.
Congratulations, Mrs. Lukic, another very well-deserved honor. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Joe Leone, principal of Alpine Elementary School, to present the Alpine Elementary School Governor Educators of the Year.
Good evening. I'd like to start off by congratulating all of tonight's award recipients. Ms. Taryn Gallagher is currently the media specialist at Alpine Elementary School and our Governor Educator of the Year. Ms. Gallagher played an important role in supporting her colleagues, parents, and students in preparation for the new virtual learning environment. She quickly supported other teachers with Google Classroom, Screencast, Padlet, Pebble Go, and various online resources for books. Not only did Ms. Gallagher support the Alpine Elementary School community, she created tutorials that were open to the entire district, specifically focusing on tools that teachers of all domains can use while teaching digitally and remotely for staff of the entire school district. As the media specialist, she was committed to making sure students continued their desire to read and had outlets to do so. She partnered with teachers who set up all virtual libraries in their classrooms where students could virtually check out books. She promoted many different resources for reading and partnered with colleagues to the district to launch a literacy program to continue to get physical books in the hands of our students in kindergarten through 5th grade. Ms. Gallagher has a special relationship with Alpine Elementary School students. She cares about their personal development and growth outside of her classroom. She's a sounding board for many who face emotional challenges and trust her for guidance. She tutors students in her free time across all areas of education. She is well-liked and respected by her peers, and her opinions are sought out by others. Ms. Gallagher is an active member of the Alpine PTO. She volunteers her time and resources. She is currently the liaison between the teachers and the PTO board. In the past, she supported the PTO to host the book fair each fall and spring and partnered with the PTO to ensure it runs smoothly. Not only is this a great way for teachers to get books for their classrooms and students to expand their libraries at home, it's also a major fundraiser to support many other activities at Alpine. Ms. Gallagher always stresses the importance of getting books into the students' hands. She continues to reinvent herself, her role, and her impact during the most challenging time of our school district. Ms. Gallagher deserves this award for many reasons, but most importantly for identifying what our community needed during an abrupt change in education, and finding ways to deliver it while supporting colleagues, parents, and students through their own challenges. Lastly, I'd like to mention that Ms. Gallagher is a proud graduate of Sparta High School, and I know she is super proud to be presented with this award. Congratulations, Karen Gallagher. Mrs. Melissa Suchich is currently a teacher assistant in our self-contained special education classroom at Alpine Elementary School and our Educational Service Professional of the Year. Ms. Suchich has been a dedicated employee of the Sparta Township Schools for over 20 years, and it's been a great pleasure to have her at Alpine Elementary School. Mrs. Dicklich, the teacher she works with for all of her 20 years, said, "To say that Melissa gives all of herself to the students is an understatement. She is committed daily to the emotional, social, and academic growth of every child she works with. She is innovative and a problem solver. We cannot begin to count the number of times she has come in early with a solution to a situation that occurred the day before. Melissa does not leave her job at the school door." Personally, I have the pleasure of standing outside with Ms. Suchich each day during student arrival. Just recently, she was beaming with excitement to tell her colleagues how one of her former students recently opened a business in town and how proud she was of her. Lastly, I'd like to mention that Mrs. Suchich is a proud member of the community. Her 3 daughters have gone through Alpine School, and to see her interactions with her daughters was exactly what you would expect. She was present, compassionate, and supportive. Congratulations, Melissa. Thank you.
Congratulations again to Mrs. Gallagher and Mrs. Suchich on, again, very well-deserved honors. To all of our award winners this year, I cannot emphasize this point enough. In the uncertainty of the world of education these days, where we are surrounded by acts of dedication, passion for students, and innovation and creativity, in the most distressing circumstances imaginable for a teacher, to be honored by your colleagues should be cherished. You all are the best of the best in Sparta, and you were recognized for it, and we appreciate all your efforts on behalf of the students of Sparta. So again, on behalf of the entire board, the district administration, congratulations and thank you for all that you do. At this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Scott Kircher, Supervisor of Social Studies, World Language, and ESL, to recognize our Seal of Biliteracy winners from Sparta High School.
Thank you, Mr. McQueenie. Good evening, everyone. It is a great honor and privilege to be able to recognize this group of 44 seniors tonight as recipients of the Seal of Biliteracy. This is among my favorite events of the year because many of these students have been studying their language since 7th grade. And so to see the culmination of 6 years of study in Spanish or German or Russian or French, and to see that practice and perseverance pay off for both students and teachers is a very gratifying moment. For those who don't know what the Seal of Biliteracy is, the New Jersey Seal of Biliteracy program was introduced in 2016. It recognizes high school seniors who demonstrate a high level of proficiency in one or more languages in addition to English. And they demonstrate this proficiency by taking a test that looks at their ability to read, write, listen, and to speak. The program fits our district and department mission to prepare students for career in college, as well as developing empathetic and engaged citizens. The SEAL provides evidence of linguistic skills that is attractive to future employers and college admission officers alike. In our ever-shrinking economy, being bi or multilingual puts students on a more even playing field with potential competitors from Europe, Asia, Africa, South and Central America. The importance of world language instruction is best summarized by philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, who wrote, "The limits of my language are the limits of my world." By achieving biliteracy, these 44 students transcend this limitation and their future is truly limitless. Also, their persistence to acquire and maintain language proficiency in the midst of a pandemic is truly remarkable. The amount of practice and authentic usage needed to write, read, listen, and speak to the standards of proficiency required to earn this recognition was no small feat. These last two skills, listening and speaking, are dependent upon interpersonal exchanges made so difficult in a socially distanced, masked, and remote environment. Despite these challenges, our students and teachers were able to creatively adjust instruction and learning and employ a variety of technical and common sense solutions to approximate the live instructional experience. In closing, on behalf of the entire World Language Department, I congratulate these 44 students who earned 45 seals of biliteracy. We do have one triliterate student, Matt Vasquez, who is proficient in English, Spanish, and French. And we also earned the seal in 5 different languages. To put this into context, to try to understand all these numbers, I wanted to give a sense of where our school is and where our community is in the United States. So I looked at the census data, and according to the most recent census, 20% of Americans are biliterate. Of that number, 45% are native English speakers, which most of our students are. Now, my math supervisor friends will check my math on me, but that means that of Americans who are native-born speakers, 9.5% are biliterate. With our 44 students in our senior class, that represents 15.5% of our senior class is biliterate compared to the nation average of 9.5%. Awesome job, Sparta. And I say Sparta because this really is a team effort. It not only is commitment and hard work by the students, support of parents and families, and also the commitment of the teachers. So it really is a team effort for this achievement. Normally, we would invite the students up for a group picture. That wouldn't really work this year. So we created a video that dedicated a slide to each student. And I asked the students to give me a picture, any picture that they wanted, and answer one of 5 questions. So on the video, you'll see their picture, their name, and also a quote about their fondest memory or something that they enjoyed about either learning a language, being biliterate, or giving advice to future learners. So we're now going to show that video. At home, you're going to see it. The board will get to see it. Everyone else, you'll just close your eyes and imagine. No, I'll do a little interpretive dance. No. But if you go online, it's on our website, and we'll be on our website for the next month. If you could play the video. And let me just... And let me just add Dankeschön to the end of that video because I missed German, and I apologize to my German department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kircher, and congratulations to all of our biliterate and triliterate seniors here at SHS.
Thank you, Mr. McQueenie. And I'd just like to say on behalf of the Board of Education, congratulations to all of our Educators of the Year recipients. We are so fortunate to have you as part of our district. And also congratulations to the 44 students who received their seal of biliteracy tonight. And a lot of proud parents in the audience tonight, on the stage and out here too. Congratulations, everybody. We're going to move on to do two presentations now. One is the budget and one is the role of a board member. This is a breaking point. If anybody would like to scoot out, we will not be offended. If you'd like to stay, you're welcome to. But we're going to do the role of a board member next.
Yes, I'll use that one. You're just gonna do that? Yeah. See you later.
As it goes to 6 people.
Make it fast.
Yes, it would be. Yes, it would.
The lighting up here is terrible, too.
If you have one, I'll take it. Ooh, yeah. We were just talking about that.
Do you want a water, Chris?
Thanks.
He has water.
Yeah, I would love one. Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think my eyes can see 75 feet. I got mine. Yeah, good job.
It's a good one. Involves board meetings and Zoom meetings.
I'm sure.
I'm good. Yep. I'm good.
Sorry, I couldn't provide more.
So leave your tip here. At the microphone. Thanks.
We're ready to go, Mr. Sittimer?
Standing room only.
Left.
Thanks for standing.
Good evening, everybody, members of the board, members of the administration, members of the community. Mr. Beck. Thank you for being here this evening. Ms. Bragg, thank you for asking me to speak on this topic. Ms. Bragg asked me to talk tonight about the role of a board member, kind of the nuts and bolts of what does a board member do. Everything I'm going to talk about tonight should absolutely be a refresher for our current board members. So I think we thought it would be helpful to educate the community a little bit about what board members do, what they don't do, what is their authority, where is the line, what is administrative, and what is board function by its nature. So let's talk first about the legal requirements of being a Board of Education member. What does one have to, what are the qualifications for being a Board of Education member? First, you have to be a citizen. You have to be a resident of the Sparta School District for at least 1 year prior to getting elected or appointed. You have to be able to read and write, which is always a good thing for Board of Education members. You have to be registered to vote, and you have to pass a criminal history background check saying that you haven't been convicted of any disqualifying offenses, and the statute defines what those disqualifying offenses are. You also have to be 18 years of age to be on the Board of Education. Interestingly enough, in one of the school districts that I represent, a senior high school student ran and was elected for the Board of Education, which was kind of interesting, having a board member who happened to be a senior student at the time, and it presented some interesting issues. He was a great board member, but it was somebody who was clearly wearing two hats, the hat of a student and a board member at the same time. He was only, on the board for, trying to think, probably about 6 months, and then he graduated, but continued on the board and did a really good job. So what is the main function of, oh, sorry, I skipped a slide. Board members are required to adhere to a code of ethics, and a couple meetings ago I talked about the code of ethics, went through the various provisions, as well as the Ethics Act, which deals with conflict of interest issues. Board of Education members in the state of New Jersey are probably the most trained government officials out of any government officials in the state. The School Boards Association, of which Sparta is a member, of course, has a variety of different trainings, and board members have to go through various trainings both in their first, second, and third year terms, as well as if they're reelected, they have to go for some retrainings as well on topics such as policy, school finance, student achievement, labor relations, school law, and so forth. And board members have a choice of lots of different trainings that they can attend. I know a lot of our board members go to the New Jersey School Boards Conference, which is in October, which provides additional opportunities for trainings as well. So what is the main function of a Board of Education member? The main function of a Board of Education member is policy, setting policy for the school district. And what does policy mean? It refers to the guidelines, principles, and rules that govern the day-to-day operations of the school district. Sparta School District has 2 volumes in its policy manual, probably thousands of pages, that the board continuously updates, refines, develops, and so forth to meet the needs of the district. Now, board members aren't literally sitting around writing these policies. We do have a company that we use, Strauss Esme, that provides us with general templates, and then our role as board members is to shape those policies to suit the needs of the Sparta School District. And the policy manual is essentially broken down into about 10 different sections from topics ranging from students, personnel, support staff, operations, community, finances, operations, and so forth. And a lot of the various board committees are tailored around the various sections of that policy manual. And the Code of Ethics actually specifically says that the role of a board member is policy making, planning for the future of the district, and appraisal, taking a step back, evaluating how we're doing and what we can do better. Here are some common misunderstandings about what board members do. And I think sometimes it's easier to kind of explain to the community what board members don't do than what they do, because I think a lot of people in the community think that the authority, the power, so to speak, of a board member is much greater than it actually is. So first of all, board members are volunteers. Unlike members of the town council, board members do not get paid, and somebody who deals with board members on a daily basis, I can tell you that they spend countless hours, more than probably most people would ever understand, devoted to the school district and their work as board members. It is a lot of time, it is a lot of effort, and oftentimes it's a thankless job, but it is a volunteer position. School boards are apolitical, meaning they're not political entities. They're not Democrat, they're not Republican, and politics are really not supposed to play a role in the Board of Education at all. School board members do not run the school district. Their job is to make sure that the school district is well run. So they don't run it, their job is to make sure that it is well run. Well, if they don't run the school district, then who does run the school district? The answer is the administration runs the school district. The superintendent, the assistant superintendent, principals, supervisors, all the way down the line. The administration is responsible for the day-to-day operations, happenings in the district, not board members. Things like calling snow days, that is not a function of board members. When schools in this climate are going to be virtual or in person. Staff and student discipline issues, when to have fire drills, parental notification issues. Again, these are all administrative functions in nature. And board members don't have individual authority. Board members really only have authority to act at a board meeting like we're having this evening when things are put to them on an agenda through a vote. And the board operates by majority rule, meaning on a 9-member board, any action of the board needs to be adopted generally by 5 members of the board. So we operate by majority rule, and that's when the board members have the authority to act on behalf of the district per the agenda that's put before them. And we'll later on in the evening vote on all the agenda items that we have this evening. What is the board member's role in handling personnel matters? A lot of folks think that board members have the authority to appoint staff members in the district, and that's kind of true. Really, the only person that the board members oversee in the school district and evaluate in the school district is the superintendent of schools. And the superintendent, in turn, is responsible for overseeing all of the other staff members. Board members cannot appoint a staff member in the school district if it is not recommended to them on the agenda by the Board of Education. So a board member couldn't raise their hand and say, I make a motion to appoint Jane Smith as a teacher at the Mohawk Avenue School. They couldn't do that if it wasn't recommended by the superintendent of schools. The only time a board can actually appoint a member is if a staff member is non-renewed and they request a hearing before the Board of Education. It's called the Donaldson hearing. It's a topic for another day, but that is really the only exception to the rule that board members don't appoint personnel without the recommendation of the superintendent. The ethics also says that board members are supposed to support and protect school personnel in the proper performance of their duties, meaning we shouldn't be evaluating our staff, our superintendent, and so forth in a public arena. It doesn't mean, as I said before, that we have to rubber stamp everything that comes before us. Board members are absolutely entitled to ask questions, debate issues, and so forth. But they are supposed to support and protect the school personnel. What is the board member role in handling complaints? Well, board members generally cannot handle complaints on their own. They are supposed to refer those complaints to the chief school administrator, who will in turn act on them. Board members are absolutely allowed, though, to refer community members, parents, etc., to the chain of command. So if a parent comes up to a board member and says, I'm very unhappy with something that's going on at my child's school, a board member can certainly say, look, I can't handle that complaint. That's not my role as a board member. But you're encouraged to go speak to your child's teacher. You're encouraged to speak to the principal of the school. And if that doesn't work, you can go see Mr. McQueenie, and then ultimately perhaps come before the Board of Education, depending on the issue. So again, board members cannot handle individual complaints or grievances brought to them by the community. Board members are privy to a lot of confidential information, so it may be tempting after a board meeting when you see a board member to say, hey, what did you guys talk about in closed session? Board members are privy to a lot of confidential information involving student matters, personnel, matters of attorney-client privilege, litigation, etc. Board members are not allowed to share that information with anybody, including members of their own family. The family members are not bound by the ethics, the board members are. And lastly, board members are in it for the students. They're here because they want to see our students succeed, to be successful when they get out and into the real world. And they are to make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of all the children. They're here for everybody, regardless of ability, race, color, sex, social standing, sexual orientation, and so forth. We're in it for the kids. We all want them to succeed, and that's why the board members do it, for the kids. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zittimer.
My pleasure.
Next up, we have the 2021 through 2022 tentative budget presentation by Mr. McQueenie.
Yes, up there, thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Not to be a downer on an otherwise good news night with our Teachers of the Year, I get to speak about the budget. This evening, we are obligated by state statute to present what is called our preliminary budget, which provides the district with a bottom line and where we plan to allocate the monies. This evening, the board will vote on that bottom line number, and over the next 6 weeks, we continue to refine the budget with a final budget adoption scheduled for April 29th. So this evening is going to be a very high-level presentation of the goals that we have with our budget, how we accomplish those goals, looking at some of our revenues and some of our expenditures, and where it brought us to that point in our budget. So quickly, some of the goals when we're looking at building our budget. Obviously, our first goal is to continue to improve the quality of our educational programs. Second, we always want to look at these student outcomes. How are ways that we can invest the district funding to be able to better the outcomes of our students? Thirdly, looking at providing professional development for our teachers, investing in our teachers and our instructional staff to provide a great teaching environment for the fostering of those student outcomes. We want to look at the social emotional learning of our students and the mental health of our entire district and invest in that to bring to, coming out of the pandemic now, it's as important as ever, if not more, to look at this facet of our district offerings. And the last two are to look at a budget that is fiscally responsible. We want to ensure that we are maximizing every dollar that we have for the benefit of our district. And we also want to be prepared moving forward. We all know, and many of us could be big fans, Mr. Kircher I know is a big fan of governments, being a history supervisor, but they tend to like to throw out mandates to us and requirements of us, and at times after budget season, but in an effort to be prepared for those, we have crafted this budget. So, although it is a budget presentation, this is a very good news budget. We're very proud of the budget we've been able to put together. We're very happy to say, despite a continued reduction in our state aid, the increasing cost of our health benefits and other utilities, we are able to present a budget with 0 staff reductions. We're able to invest in our teachers with a substantial investment in professional development opportunities for our teachers. We've achieved another substantial investment in our student support services, our RTI programs. We are very proud to announce that we are establishing the beginnings, because it will not be complete in this budget, but the beginnings of a K-12 mental health wellness program for the entire district, and finally, a substantial continued investment in our facilities. All of that is being able to be accomplished within the confines of our budget and the state-allowed 2% increase in the tax levy. So the first slide here just goes through some summary of the things that we have been able to put into our budget. First, we are able to invest $300,000 in RTI and extended learning programs. These are ways that we can support our students, identify students that are struggling, students that are in need of added supports, and extend the programs and opportunities for them through summer programs and before and after school programs. We have budgeted this year for an AP incentive program. This is a program we hope to drive the desire of our students to take AP exams and to foster an environment where they can challenge themselves to take these. The next two is what I referred to with our K-12 health and wellness program, mental wellness program across the district. Currently, we have a program at the middle school that serves only middle school students, which is a fantastic program. Through collaboration with our very successful Sparta High School Align program, our Director of Student Support Services, and our Director of Special Services, we have been able to reallocate monies to create a supervisor of district wellness and clinician at the high school, a district wellness clinician at the middle school, as well as align wellness stipends K-12, so that we will have the services of social workers and school psychologists at all levels to be able to support students in their socio-emotional and mental health growth. Two positions that are new to the budget. We have the need for an additional speech therapist this year in our special services department, and due to a growing population, an additional ESL teacher will be budgeted for the 2021-2022 school year. We have also recognized, unfortunately through this pandemic, some of the limitations of our Chromebooks and of our staff's devices. We have had a substantial investment to upgrade all district staff devices, as well as the continuation of our Chromebook one-to-one program. In facilities and infrastructure, the first two items on this list are really just a reminder. They are technically budgeted in the current school year budget, but that is the HVAC replacement in the modulars at Alpine Elementary School and in the annex of Helen Morgan School, and also the continued installation of the playground facilities at Mohawk Avenue School. Other facilities and infrastructure investments are the annex gym bleachers and wall pads here at the high school, the tennis court resurfacing here at the high school, main gym refinishing, parking lot paving projects at Alpine, Helen Morgan, and Sparta Middle School, new flooring installations at Alpine, Mohawk, and the high school, the exterior soffit upgrade at Helen Morgan School, annex student bathroom upgrade at Helen Morgan School, interior door replacement and sidewalk installation at Mohawk Avenue School, and window and door replacements at the Board of Ed modular offices. As you can see, this budget balances the needs of our district in terms of curriculum, social, emotional needs, as well as the continued investment in the facilities and infrastructure so that our facilities can continue to match the high quality of instruction inside the classroom. As I mentioned before, this page is just a summary of the state aid that we were allocated for this year. For those that are not familiar, there was a bill called S2, which was a refunding or reformulating of state aid across the district. And in a very simplistic terms, it decided that certain districts were overfunded and other districts were underfunded. Based on these state calculations, they determined that Sparta, as well as every other school in Sussex County with the exception of 2, was overfunded. So they gave us a plan 3 years ago that says over the course of the next 7 years, you will incrementally lose state aid. We are about in the middle of that process. So this year, the district lost over $217,000 to our budget. That money has to be accounted for somewhere in our budget. I give credit to our interim business administrator, Mr. Ron Smith, all of our department head, principals, administration for their hard work to get the needs of their buildings and departments in with this loss in state aid. The next slide is some of the revenues highlights. As you can see at the top, the main source of funding for the Sparta School District is through our tax levy. We anticipate going to the 2% maximum allowable by law. You'll see that we lost approximately 3.67% in state aid this year. Moving down, just giving some highlights. Capital reserve withdrawal, this is a reserve account only used for maintenance projects. That is the main funding source for many of the projects that I outlined before. Finally, one that is kind of a good news, bad news is the last one is our debt service fund. The board was very responsible by refinancing the bonds that our district currently has, which resulted in a savings of approximately $400,000 this year to the taxpayer. That's a good news, bad news in that that's less revenue for the district to be able to maintain our programs, but certainly being able to provide relief to our community was important as well. Looking at our expenditures, it's important here to note our salaries increased by 2.47% over last year. This is a contractually obligated increase in cost. Health benefits rose close to 5%, and a large majority of our increase was taken by just this increase alone. So it was important that we prioritized where we put the valuable funds that we have and then make sure we maximize where we put them. So you'll see in facilities, buildings and grounds, and in transportation, respectively, we lowered the cost or the expenditures there by 3.1% and 2%, again, using that capital reserve in order to still continue the projects that we're doing. I also want to highlight, although not reflected here, but something that both Mr. Smith and I feel that will pay large dividends to the district is our participation in an ESIP program, which is an energy savings improvement program. Basically, a company comes in, reviews all of our district buildings, it does an energy audit. They will highlight how much savings by doing various projects we will be able to accomplish. With that money, the savings, they will then provide us with a loan that will be payable through the savings that allows us to do projects across our district without an added impact into our budget. Preliminary estimates are showing that we could see as much as $12 million in savings, which then can be reinvested back into our district to accomplish projects ranging from solar panels to roofing projects to HVAC improvements across the district. So we're very excited about that opportunity. Again, that is not reflected in this budget at this time. We are in the early beginnings of that, and that will be continued on through next year. Finally, the two most important, or the one just split up here, most important aspect of our budget is our regular ed instruction and our special education instruction. We've been able to reallocate funds and focus on our curriculum instruction. So you'll see between those that we have risen 3.5% in our investment in our students' education. So that was a lot of talking about the budget from me. If you remember nothing else about the budget, it's a very good news budget. We're very excited in these times, despite the loss in state aid, that we have talented individuals who work very hard since November to be able to put together this budget. Again, as it accomplishes many of the goals of the district, from supporting our students, not just academically, but socio-emotionally and their mental health, while continuing to invest in our facilities and infrastructure. So with that, if there's any questions from the board.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. McQueenie. I have a question. I thank you for the work that you put into this, and Mr. Smith, and the people that, everybody on the board that participated. I know a lot of effort went in. I know there's still a lot more effort to go, so thank you for that. I have a question for you. One of your last comments about the energy audit and proposed savings. I think the last superintendent undertook an effort like this a couple of years ago. We spent money on an energy audit that was supposed to return some pretty good dividends. I don't really know what happened with that.
It was a different kind of a thing. They just monitored what you did. They didn't do any projects to save energy.
Did we realize any savings from that?
No, because it wasn't the purpose of that project. It was just to monitor it, to make sure the thermostats were not high and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think that there were some projected savings from that.
It wasn't really an ESOP like this. This is a great way to save money and get stuff done without adding it to the budget.
Okay. But there were some projected savings on the last one, and I don't think we realized those. I recall that. I don't know. I wasn't here for a year, so I don't know if that would ever reflect in any actual savings. And then the $12 million in savings, we spend $5.3 million on facilities, buildings, and grounds projected for the next budget. $12 million. I imagine that would be affected there, not in any of the other line items. The $12 million savings potential is over, what, 10 years, 20 years?
I believe the ESIP program looks at over 15 years.
15 years.
It could
Okay.
be 12 to 15 years.
Okay. All right.
So the general summary of how that project works is we have a company that the board has approved, Honeywell, to come in and conduct an energy audit. They review all of our physical plant and facilities, look for those savings over a 15-year period. Those savings are then vetted by a BPU engineer from the state, who will then either say, yes, they're correct, or no, go back and work your numbers, but assuming that they agree on those numbers. The only cost, added cost, I should say, to the Board of Education is we hire a third engineer to have it triple checked. We estimate that cost to be $5,000 or $6,000 to hire that, to have that, again, those savings reviewed. Should they all agree that there is a certain amount of savings over a 15-year period, we continue to budget our utilities and expenses at the same level they are while realizing those savings, and then use the savings to pay for a loan that will be invested back into our schools.
Okay.
So,
yeah, it sounds like a great idea, and I'm glad that we're going to take another look at that. But as I'm saying
I
this,
did it in several districts. It works wonderful.
okay, no, I think it's really anything we can do to take a look at when we can save some OpEx going forward is great. But this last thing that we did, and I think it was 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we actually had to pay. We paid for training. We had to pay for somebody.
You stopped it
yeah,
when they
so
first-
the Synergistics program was one where we actually had to hire an additional staff member, and you had to pay close to $150,000 a year to reap the benefits of that program. There was a guarantee. We felt when I first started, I took a review of that program and felt that it was something that was not worth the outlay of budgeted funds to get the savings that we saw. In the end, you saw savings, but minimal savings that were not reinvested. And at the end of the day, as Mr. Smith alluded to, it was a program that would just make sure your lights were turned off and your temperature was checked, those types of things. This is actually a review of an upgrade of different aspects of our facilities. So through this program, with that minimal outlay, we'll be able to turn around and get new boilers or a solar panel or whatever it may be based on the recommendations of that company. So we felt to get the same type of energy savings we were looked at that past program, but now actually have the funds to reinvest into physical projects that will enhance and improve the district. Both Mr. Smith and I felt that this was something to go forward with. Additionally, Mr. Tappan has been an advocate of this for a number of years and was unable to bring it forth to the board. Now that we're seeing it, all three of us feel that there would be great benefit to continuing to pursue this program.
Okay, again, I want to reiterate, I think it's a good idea, but I think it's incumbent on the board, the members, because as we have a new superintendent coming in, and, you know, with all the respect, Mr. Smith, you're the interim business administrator, there's got to be some continuity, because it wasn't that long ago that we installed all the solar panels over at the middle school, and we have dubious benefit from that, right? I don't even know if it's quantified, what the benefit is, if any. And then we paid for the synergistics thing sometime in very recent history, in the last 2 or 3 years, and we got no real benefit from it. So this sounds promising. So I think it's, let's run it to ground, let's see what it is, let's make a decision as a board. But I think that in 2 years, we need to make sure that we have some follow-up, and we actually see that this is true, because this is the third energy undertaking that the district is going to have in like 10 years. And it's, I think it's really important that we just have some follow-through and see what it's like in a few years.
And
Well,
when we're done
I
with
think
the
you're actually
study,
going to
put it
see,
together, we'll make a full presentation to the board.
Yep.
you'll see it sooner than 2 years, because the company will come in and present to the board. You know, I felt that this program was very valuable to the district, because not that any amount of money is anything that you want to waste, but you're looking at an outlay of between $5,000 and $6,000 to get a presentation to see if this is something the board feels that you'll see the savings that we anticipate. If the board at that time feels like it's not something, or it's going to be a rerun of past projects, you leave and you're out $5,000 or $6,000, versus past programs where you're locked into multi-year contracts paying over $150,000. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think it's something to keep an eye on, but we did it with that in mind so that the board could exit from it if it was something they didn't feel was going to be as beneficial as advertised, with minimal impact to the district.
Okay, all right, thank you.
If I could just piggyback off of what you said, Mike, I think it would be really beneficial for the full board to have a presentation about the ESIP program in the future. I know it's a detailed program. I've talked to Mr. Smith about it a couple of times. There's still facets of it I don't understand. So I think it would be really beneficial if we all benefited from a presentation in the future.
Absolutely. We just had a preliminary meeting with Honeywell, the company that we approved. So there is headway being made, and within the next couple months would be a very appropriate time to start talking about the program and what they're finding, so it all kind of comes together and makes sense for the board.
That sounds great. Thank you. Are there any other questions about the budget? No? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. McQueenie.
All right, thank you.
I will give you a second to get back to your seat, but next up is number 6, the student representatives report. Our student reps are not here this evening, but Kyle Newworth was kind enough to forward the report to Mr. McQueenie to read. So if you want to go ahead and do that.
Thank you, Mrs. Bragg. This, again, from the student representatives shared with me by Kyle Newworth. Good evening. As student representatives from Sparta High School, we provide monthly updates to the Sparta Board of Education. Unfortunately, due to personal conflicts, none of us could be in person tonight. We instead have created this written statement to provide our update. Student Council is in the process of planning a school-wide Spirit Week, and we hope to have that take place during the first week of full school for all students. In addition, Student Council will once again be stationing upperclassmen throughout the building to assist new students in finding their way around Sparta High School, as we did at the start of the hybrid schedule. The Student Council Executive Board is in the process of organizing a sunflower garden space at Sparta High School. The garden will be in honor of Melanie D. Domizio and will serve as a calm place for students to go if they desire. The senior class held a successful virtual apparel fundraiser, and the goal is to have the orders sent out prior to the beginning of spring break. The junior class wrapped up their successful shoe drive, and all donations have been collected by the shoe company. The juniors have also begun contacting potential DJs for their prom, which is scheduled for June 9th at Perona Farms. The sophomore class held a successful Bubba Coos fundraiser, and others are already in the works. The sophomores are also hoping to hold a car wash in May. The freshman class is working on fundraisers of their own and hopes to host one sometime around spring break. The executive board thanks Mr. McQueenie, Mrs. Bragg, and the entire board for their continued support and openness. In addition, we are excited to work with Mr. Beck towards the end of this school year as we transition to next year's student representatives. Thank you all again, and we look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. Sincerely, Thomas Dean, Lucas Hine, Kyle Newworth, Sophie Regimball, and Andrew Venizelos.
Thank you. Just lost my place. Student rep. Okay, moving on to number 7.1, approval of the February 25th regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Kurt. Second?
Second.
Was that Vanessa?
Yeah.
Thank you. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Bragg?
Yes?
Ms. Grana?
Yes.
Ms. Grano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Madison?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to 7.2, approval of the February 25th executive session minutes. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Who was that? Krista. Thank you, Krista. Second? Second. Thank you, Kurt. Discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Smith?
Ms. Bragg?
Yes.
Ms. Grana?
Yes.
Ms. Grano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Abstain.
Ms. Madison?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
I didn't hear.
We just need you to use the mic so
Dr. Serrano?
Mr. Smith can hear you.
Yep.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yes.
Did you get Dr. Serrano?
I did. Dr. Serrano, I did, Nicole.
You got her? Okay. Great. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 8.1, the superintendent's report. Mr. McQueenie?
Thank you, Mrs. Bragg. First off, I would like to introduce here in the auditorium this evening with us Mr. Shannon Benson. Thank you, Mr. Benson, for waiting so patiently. Mr. Benson here to our right was appointed last month as the new vice principal at Sparta High School. We're very excited to have Mr. Benson come on board and be a part of our Spartan family, so we hope to have him very soon. So thank you, Mr. Benson, for coming this evening. And thank you for waiting so patiently. It's a long night to come and sit wait. So, I want to give a quick return to school update. Our kindergarten through 5th grade schools are now in full day instruction. They began this past Monday, full day instruction, continuing next week. It has been very successful. We're excited to begin for our K-5 students. Full day with all students on March 29th is still our plan to move forward. Our middle school and high school had a little bit of a setback. Unfortunately, health and safety protocols and quarantining protocols impacted our staff to the point that we did not feel that we could safely bring in full-day high school and middle school students with the lunch period. So we have delayed that. Over the course of the next week, the Return to School Committee and I will be meeting to discuss next steps, and we will plan to have an announcement out to our school community very soon. Also coming out very soon, we've had many requests for it, and for very good reason, looking at some of the quarantining protocols due to travel, close contacts, positive contacts. It is an ever-changing, if you watch the news, it probably changes from the morning to the afternoon. And then once the CDC changes, we still wait for the Department of Health in New Jersey to change. So it becomes very frustrating for everyone when we see potential changes on CNN or Fox News. Those changes need to come to our New Jersey Department of Health for their adoption, which then translate to the school. With all of that, Mr. Gregory and I sat down today, and we will be sharing something with our school community tomorrow with a letter and some social media posts and almost placards you could put on your refrigerator if you're so inclined to be able to navigate the quarantining protocols as well as our COVID wizard, Mr. Gregory. So that will be coming out very soon. So please pay attention to those details. I do want to highlight the need for our community to continue using the many health and safety protocols that we have. At this time, Sussex County is seeing a rise in cases. The positivity rate, the transmission rate in Sussex County is actually #1 in the state at this time. So it's very important that we continue to wear our mask at school, maintain social distances, wash your hands regularly, stay home when you're sick. And for the schools, please, please, please fill out those COVID daily forms and help our administrators out when our students are coming into the building.
Thank you, Mr. McQueenie.
I got a few more.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
what else you got?
I got a lot of talking tonight,
What
so
else?
I
Bring it on.
apologize. A lot of good news. I want to congratulate Sparta High School senior Liam Rust for being a 2021 National Merit Scholarship finalist. For those that may not be aware, Liam is one of 15,000 students across the nation to be able to get this. We are hoping that he will go on to win the scholarship. So we want to congratulate Liam and his well-deserved honor. This past week, we had our Sussex County Teen Arts Festival. This is an annual event. This is the first year that it was held virtually. Sparta, as always, did phenomenally well. These students that I'm going to highlight have been selected to continue exhibiting their artwork or performing at the State Teen Arts Festival. So we want to recognize for the New Jersey State Teen Arts Festival Visual Art Tour, Chloe Clancy. New Jersey State Teen Arts Festival Visual Art Exhibit, Kimberly Bellamy, Tage Kellenberger, Emily Condit, Emma Chili, Elena Pichnik, Luca Bodowski. In Peters Valley School of Craft Scholarship, Emma Chili. Selections for Teen Arts Publication, Caitlin Syock, Valerie Gavioli, Tage Kellenberger, Jolie Dottinger, Rachel Young. Selections for performance at New Jersey State Teen Arts Festival, Jenna Blandina in dance, Kaylee Simpson in dance, Emily Harms, piano, Tyler Harms, piano, Olivia Canova, small vocal, Emma McNamara, small vocal, and finally, Peters Valley School of Craft Scholarship, Emma Chili. So congratulations to all of our students recognized. I apologize to every student that I've spoken about tonight. I'm sure that I messed up your name. Feel free to call me McWeenie or whatever you need to make it even. That's just fine. So I apologize, but the honors are well deserved. I also want to highlight what we call our sports season number 2. Typically, it would be our winter season. However, the state of New Jersey has divvied up all our sports seasons from 3 to 5. So in season number 2, we have boys and girls basketball, our ski team, and our bowling team. So I want to recognize those students and their accomplishments. Again, I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's names. With our ski team, Claudia Calafati, first team NJAC North girls, Kana Pasanuri, first team NJAC South boys. NJISRA All-League Racers, Claudia Calafati, Cora Moriarty, Madison Campisi, and Kana Pasanuri, state championships, 5th place girls varsity. So congratulations to our ski team. Our bowling team, Val Huff, first team NJAC North girls. Tommy Irwin, first team NJAC North boys. Elias Karam, second team. Aiden Bavona, second team. Nate Miller, honorable mention, and Zoe Creasis, honorable mention. The team took second place in their league with a 13-3 record. Congratulations to our Spartan bowlers. I have more. boys basketball this year, Colby Plotz, first team, all conference, and Dean Alkovic, third team, all conference. Congratulations to our boys basketball. Girls basketball team with a record of 14-1 were the NJAC Red Block champions. They were also finished the year number 13 in the state of New Jersey. Bryn McCurry and Allie Sweeney were named first team, all conference. Alexa Acker, Bailey Chapman were second team, all conference. And Mason Munier, honorable mention. That was the starting five for our girls basketball team, made all conference honors, so we want to congratulate them and all of our athletes on a great winter season number 2. And that concludes my report.
You sure?
I could talk more, but I think that's enough for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. McQueenie.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to item number 10, HIB report. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Kurt. Second?
Second.
Krista, was that you?
Yes.
Discussion. Roll call, please, Mr. Smith?
Mrs. Bragg?
Yes?
Ms. Grana?
Yes.
Ms. Grano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Madison?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
There you go. Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yes.
Can't get any closer to it.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to our delegate liaison reports. Do we have anybody who has anything to report out? I do. Okay, go ahead.
I do. Yeah, I wanted to just really quick update on the Sparta C3 efforts. The Racial Equity Task Force Subcommittee had a great event on March 4th called Our Voices Engaged, which was a debrief of the vlog that was originally released in February. Having attended the debrief and been a part of the vlog development, was a really, really amazing virtual event where all members of the community, students, faculty members, anybody that wanted to participate, watched the vlog together, and then had a discussion, and also broke out into groups to discuss. And once again, my biggest takeaway was how amazing our students are. And all the students that participated in that event, speaking about their own direct experiences, were really, like, to me, the biggest, the brightest, takeaway from everything, is how articulate they all are, how willing they are to have these conversations. It's really, really inspiring. So if anybody wanted to see the recording or listen to the recording, it's available on the Sparta C3 website, and I'd encourage anybody in the community to listen. It's a really, really great conversation. We reported back to the original meeting, and then each group kind of talked about what they discussed. So you kind of got to participate in everybody's discussion. So there were some really great points brought up and some really, really important discussions, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's coming next out of that committee. And then the social emotional learning group is very excited because it's social emotional learning week starting on Monday, the week of the 22nd, right? That's Monday, to the 26th. And they're kicking it off with a self-care webinar presentation on the 22nd. I'm literally going to read Lauren's update because I think it's the best way to go with everything that's happening, because it's all really, really great, and they're very excited about it. It starts the 22nd and culminates on Friday, March 26th, which is International Social Emotional Learning Day. There's a lot of Choose Love virtual assemblies that will be hosted in grades K through 5, and Travis Marion Foundation virtual assemblies will be hosted in grades 6 through 12. A moment of reflection where students, educators, and building staff will be asked to stop and pause each day to think inward as a self-awareness practice. Kindness and self-care cards will be distributed to all students and educators K through 12 as a way to promote social awareness and wellness. And each school will be offered additional opportunities to engage students in social emotional learning activities that week. A district-wide video will be released on International SEL Day to inform the community on social emotional learning and what's being done in each of our 5 schools. And an example of the 5 SEL competencies. And finally, they will be awarding gratitude prizes at random for students and educators in every school for taking SEL on in our classrooms for their courage and resilience during the pandemic. So there's a lot of really exciting things coming out of that committee. All of these committees that make up the C3 are really working around the clock on really great ideas, really great events, really great programs. So again, anybody can sign up at the Sparta C3 section of the website, and I encourage everybody to check it out. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have a liaison report? Okay, I'm going to jump in real quick. Our K through 5 PTOs are doing a spring fundraiser called Dessert, Donate, and Celebrate Spring, Friday, March 19th and Saturday, March 20th from 1 to 9 p.m. at Sparta Dairy. A portion of the proceeds will go towards our 3 elementary PTOs, Alpine, Mohawk Ave, and Helen Morgan. Then we have a fundraiser coming up for the Sparta High School PSTO in correlation with it. Is that right? In correlation with the PSTO? The poker. Okay, thank you, Darlene. The Sparta Benevolent Society is running a poker game on March 25th. They are asking for donations to help our seniors with their prom. I think it's a fantastic endeavor for this organization. If you're interested in participating, you can go to spartasociety.org, and you do need to be 18 or older to participate in the poker tournament. The class of 2024 has a donut making kit fundraiser running also through March 25th, and you can contact the high school if you're interested. Donut making kits are $12. The PSTO at the high school has a lot of things in the works. They're working on a senior sunset day, which would be an event the night before graduation. They're planning a senior walk. Also, they're planning underclassmen events, which the details are to be determined at this point. Many grants have been approved and distributed, and they're also planning a staff appreciation event. So lots going on at our PTOs. Okay, moving on to item number 12, public comments for action items only. Do we have anybody who would like a public comment on our action items? Okay, please state the action item as well as your name and address for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak.
Darlene?
Can you pull it down?
Yeah. Darlene Blandina. I don't know, is it on?
Yep.
Darlene Blandina, 5 Rose Lane. I had a question on item 1312, the overload stipends.
13.12?
Yes.
Okay.
So at the top, it shows $12,076.20, and those all show effective March 22nd through the end of the school year. Then towards the bottom section, it's the same dollar amount, but it's only March 17th through April 30th. Why is there a discrepancy as far as the same amount for different periods of time?
So the key there is it says prorated. So it's the same amount, but it'll be divided up over that time period. So if it's different time periods, it's based off of the same base amount, and then it's a portion of that based on the time that they're actually doing those courses.
Okay, so it's prorated, okay. And Kim, do we come back later if we have comments on the presentations? Is that for later?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Rachel, is there anybody online? No? Nobody on the phone? Okay, thank you. And none were emailed to us? Okay, closing public comment number 1. Moving on to personnel and policy. We are voting on items 13.1 through 13.17. Do I have a motion? Motion. Thank you, Kurt. Second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Vanessa.
That hard to anyone to say second.
You can't be your own
Yeah, I
second,
know,
Kurt.
but no one else was saying. So.
Discussion, please.
Mrs. Bragg?
Hold on one second. Do we have any discussion? We're good. Okay, roll call. Go ahead.
Mrs. Bragg?
Yes.
Ms. Grana?
Yes.
Ms. Grano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Madison?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Mrs. Sorensen?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item numbers 14.1 through 14.7 in curriculum instruction and special services. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Vanessa, was that you? Oh, Krista, I'm sorry. Second?
Second.
Jen? Thank you. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Bragg?
Yes.
Ms. Grana?
Yes.
Ms. Grano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Madison?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on to items number 15.1 through 15.8 in finance. Do I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Krista, was that you?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Bragg?
Yes.
Ms. Grana?
I'd like to abstain from 15.7 and yes
Which
to
one?
everything else.
Jen, if you could just
15.7.
repeat that right into the microphone.
I would like to abstain from
Yep.
15.7
Yep.
and yes to all else.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Grano?
Yes.
Mr. McGovern?
Yes.
Ms. Madison?
I'll abstain on 15.7 and yes to everything else.
Was that yes to everything else, Kate?
Mr. Morris?
Were you still asking her a question?
Mr.
I mean,
Morris?
yes. I didn't know if you were done asking her.
No, they're all set.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Dr. Serrano?
Yes.
Ms. Sorensen?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to number 16, operations. We are voting on items 16.1 through 16.3. Do I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Kurt, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Krista. Discussion?
Yeah, can I just ask a question?
Could you just talk like right into it?
Yeah. I know we discussed the first version of the calendar in committee, right? Didn't we discuss in every committee? But
Yes.
we didn't discuss the final version.
So we took feedback from every committee, compiled it into what is in the operations agenda, and we discussed it in operations. It's an operations item, but we did take the feedback from all the committees.
So we're not closing next year on Election Day?
No, Election Day was included as a closure day.
Oh, I just was looking at it and it didn't look like it was yellow.
Just let me verify that with Mr. McQueenie. It should be.
Okay, I'm glad I asked then, because
You know, if you just
I don't know if it is right
Give me
now.
a second to let me verify it.
Sure.
But that was the intention, because that was the takeaway from our committee.
Yeah.
Bear with me.
Thanks, Kate, for asking that. I was going to ask the same question.
Neve, can you speak up, please?
I was going to say thanks to Kate for asking that because I was going to ask the same question.
I can't hear her.
She's thanking Kate for
Oh,
bringing it up,
Oh,
because she didn't think we would be able to hear her. which we can't.
I'm just pulling it up right now. Did you pull it up too and see?
I have it on the portal, and it doesn't look like it's,
Maybe that's an older
Okay,
highlighted.
so election,
But the one on board docs might be correct.
so election day, we have as November 2nd? But hold on a second, we don't have it over here. Okay, so Kate, the intention was to honor that request, and in, the columns where they're different colors or shapes, it's listed as off, school closed, but in the center where there's the verbiage, Election Day is on Tuesday, November 2nd,
Oh, okay.
and it's just not listed in that center section.
Got it.
I'll go back and edit it before, if it's approved.
I think we could approve it with
No,
the...
that's fine, I didn't,
Yeah, I think we could approve it with a caveat that we make sure that the center section is corrected to reflect that Election Day is in fact going to be off. Okay, any other discussion for operation items?
Yeah, Kim, on the calendar, I would like to, I'm going to support the calendar as it is, so that we're off for the general election in November. But it's really important that we do two things. One, get consistent in the calendar because we are not closing for a primary election, but we are closing for the general election. It doesn't make any sense to me that we would do one and not the other. And number two, I think that we need to really push back very firmly, completely exhaust all avenues so that we get voting out of the schools, so that we don't have to lose a day of instruction, for the elections. It's a nice thing to do. Schools are community centers a lot of the times, and I think it's important for that. But for in the abundance of caution, we close the schools because we have voting taking place in 2 of our buildings, not 5 of our buildings, right? And we have to provide restrooms for the poll workers and anybody who comes in to vote. So, we discussed this in the committee about, asking the town to give us some more police presence and all of that so we can keep the schools open. So, A, we're inconsistent. B, I really think we need to fully exhaust getting the voting out of the schools.
I agree, consistency is important. Thanks for bringing up that point about the primary day. I can tell you for sure, getting the schools free of elections is a priority of this board, and we're working hard on that.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
hopefully, it will be out of our schools, and we can have school on that day. That would be the best-case scenario.
That would be
And
fantastic.
if that is the case, then we would have to revote on the calendar, which is not a big deal to do.
I think we'd all happily vote to have in-person instruction that day if we can do it safely.
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Bragg,
Yes?
Ms. Grana,
Yes.
Ms. Grano,
Yes.
Mr. McGovern,
Yes.
Ms. Madison,
yes.
Mr. Morris,
Yes.
Dr. Serrano,
yes.
Ms. Sorensen,
Yes.
Thank you, motion carries. Moving on to, we have unfinished business. With the permission of the board, I would like to propose that we have what I consider to be redundancy on our agenda every month, which is unfinished business and old business. And I think it's just redundant. So, does anybody have unfinished business or old business? And going forward, I'll just pick one and we'll focus on that. Okay,
I'm
we're
good
good.
with
Okay, any new business?
Yeah, Kim, I've got two things. One is pretty simple, and I'm only bringing it up in new business so that you can decide to which committee these should be sent.
Okay.
The first, Mr. McQueenie's recognition of the ski teams kind of prompted this one. First of all, I think the ski teams had a really good year. It was very, very nice to see. It's an underappreciated sport and a low attendance from people. It's tough to get to the races, but it's pretty fun if you make it up the mountain. I would like for us to consider how we fund the ski team. It's a sport. But it is one of the sports that it's rather expensive for the participants. It's the Booster Club helps the kids out by buying the suits that they need, but the kids are usually on their own for buying the ski pass, and they get a reduced rate for that. But we should be consistent in how we do that, because it's become a pay-to-play sport where, as a district, we pride ourselves that our sports are accessible for all of our students, which I think is really great, and I think we need to continue that. So I just think it's worth exploring. We've got some time. It's not necessarily a budget issue, although it could be. I don't know what committee that would be assigned to, but I'd like to see if somebody can take that up.
Okay, thank you.
The second item is, it's related to the stipends, and I appreciate the person who brought up the question about the stipends. But I'm not going to begrudge anybody for getting their contractually obligated pay for an increased workload. That's where the stipends are there. So it's not about the stipends or the stipend recipients, but I would like to, again, I don't know what committee this goes to, because I could see it going to all of them. I'd like to see if we could get some kind of regular reporting on teacher absences, either short-term or long-term absences, and how we're covering that. I saw that we have, a couple of new substitutes that are approved, but only 3 teacher substitutes. I just want to know how we're addressing that. It seems to be an ongoing thing. We've got, this is more difficult than normal. It's probably hard to get some substitutes. We've got some pretty significant teacher outages sometimes. I think they're acute, but I don't know. So I think if we could just have some kind of regular readout on what those absences are and how we're filling it, so that we're getting the adequate coverage for the kids. And this has prompted a little bit. One parent reached out to us this week, and Mr. McQueenie, thank you for addressing that parent's concerns. And but I think it's just would be something that we collect that data as an administration, or the administration collects that data. I think it would just be, it'd be good, maybe enlightening. I don't know if there's any business decisions that come from that, but I think just for that knowledge and transparency, I think it would be good. So
can I just ask a couple follow-up questions? Are you interested in just teacher absences or total staff absences?
I think total staff, because we saw that so thanks for asking that. With the recent events with having to, some of the custodial staff had to quarantine and things, and that affected our operations of the school. So yeah, I think it would be faculty and staff.
Okay. One thing, after we received Mr. McQueenie's update yesterday, one thing I asked him to do was to please get back to the board and let us know, like some sort of reporting to the board of absences, total staff, and then the percentage that is absent. He's been a little tied up today covering some of those absences, but that was sort of my intention too. If there's additional information you're looking for beyond just a brief, absence, total staff, percentage out, I think we can just talk about what information he reports out, because he certainly has the information he could share.
Sure. So let's see what it is as the information comes out, and then if there's any way that it's, even if it's just a narrative on how that gap is closed, because I know it's going to be different all the time, right? Depending on which school it is, what the subject is, what the position is, if it's if it's an aide or a teacher or a custodian. So I don't want to presume that I know what the data are going to say. And what kind of other information we need. So I'd be interested in seeing that first readout and then fine tune from there.
Okay, because it's same with me, because I think we could really drill down if we wanted to, because we would never know about, say, the custodial issues if we just get a very broad review.
Right.
So I think, Mr. McQueenie, it's really, when you take a look, let us know what your thoughts are on what information you think we would benefit from.
And just one clarification on that, because we are in odd times, it's not just an absence, but if a teacher is teaching their classes, but they're virtual and they can't be in person, I'd be interested in knowing that too.
Okay. Thank you for bringing that up, Mike. Do we have any other new business?
I just had a question to touch on Mike's thing with teachers being absent. Being that the teachers are continuing to call out sick, use their sick leave on a daily basis and not showing up either in class or a lot of times not on the computer at all. Students are showing up to empty, dark classrooms. Is there any way we can fill those classrooms with administrators, directors, supervisors, so these students aren't showing up to dark classrooms with no teachers online or no teachers in the classroom? You know, because last meeting, we had a representative here who said probably 10 to 12 times that these teachers will show up, but they have yet to show up. So is there any way we can fill these classrooms with supervisors?
To some extent, yes, not all the time, depending on the number and the obligations and responsibilities of the other administrators, it's not guaranteed. There are some things that we've discussed at the high school specifically of how we can better communicate out when this is happening, when we have staff that are not in for sick days or are teaching virtually due to quarantine protocols or other things that would require them to be out of the building based on health and safety protocols, but allow us to keep teaching. We are being very creative to do that. We are in a position, though, that we can only get stretched so thin, and the alternative would be to close the building. So although it's not optimal, we are looking for ways to be creative to keep kids in person, and using our administrative staff has been and will continue to be one way we can do it. But there's no way to guarantee everyone's going to be filled, and I can't commit to every administrator being able to step into a classroom with all the responsibilities they have. So it's kind of a half and half, yes and no, all at the same time.
But I mean, ultimately, it could be done to some extent.
And it has been.
Okay.
But it can't fill them all. So regardless of how much effort we put in, there will still be empty classes depending on the numbers of staff that are out.
Okay.
So although it will help, as an example, yesterday had 39 staff members out at the high school. So we have X amount of administrators available that are not covering other buildings. Even if we get 10, that's still 29 staff members that were out. So that although it would help, it's not going to alleviate that problem. So we've had conversations about how we can all pitch in and help each other. Again, to the extent that we can, we have been, we will, and we will continue to do. But there's only so many administrators and so many open classrooms.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. McQueenie, to add on to that, so is there some kind of tipping point? If we've got 39 staff that's out on a given day, at what point do we have such great absences that we close for that day?
We don't have one that we've quantified yet. We don't know when that would be.
How many teachers are there in the high school?
Close to 100.
Okay, so we're talking about 40% of the staff.
Of staff, not necessarily teaching staff members, though.
Okay, so that 39, we don't know what their
I don't
breakdown is.
have the numbers offhand to be able to communicate what that would be exactly, but it was covered yesterday, and it was taken care of. There were some communication issues that created some issues, but in terms of coverage, it was, to my estimation, the job that Mr. Spring did and his staff to cover it was done very well. There were some issues where, as an example, that signs were put on doors to have students report to the cafeteria to do the online learning, where we have wide open space and people sit, and signs were missing or doors were open, not by a teacher. So then we had students walking into rooms where the sign was there, but now the door's open, the sign's gone. So there were like little things like that we are cleaning up and having conversations about how we can do that better. But to give an answer of how many could we continue to do without having to close, I don't know what that would be, but we are close.
Okay, thank you.
Kim?
Is there any accountability for these mishaps, with stuff not being filled, teachers not showing up virtually and not leaving assignments for students or anything like that?
There is, and it's being addressed by the supervisors. I don't know of specific instances. Those specific instances weren't reported to me. But in terms of staff using sick days or not coming, those are contractually obligated or dictated by quarantine protocols, health and safety protocols.
I understand.
So
the sick time.
that, to answer your question about teachers not leaving assignments or not showing up, specific instances should be reported to the building administration and supervisors, and I know when ones have been addressed to them, they've been addressed and taken care of.
I mean,
But
is it-
none have been brought to my attention.
For the ones who teach from home, they teach virtual. I'm not a teacher, I don't know how it works on their end, but I mean, is it sufficient enough for them to log on, post an assignment, and then log off? And is that how these teachers are teaching? And telling these kids, if you have any questions, ask a student, don't ask me?
I would have to get the specifics of that
I mean,
situation.
it's an ongoing issue, the way these teachers are teaching from home, you know, abusing the system, logging on, posting an assignment, logging off, and hoping they have an assignment when they wake up completed.
Yeah, I would say that if there's, I think it's a bad decision to color all of our teachers that way.
Oh,
But
I'm not
that's-
at all.
and-
I'm not
even to
saying it's
suggest
all.
that it's possibly rampant, I think would be irresponsible. I think that if those things happen, which I'm not saying they don't, they should be immediately reported so that they can be addressed. Because if it is an ongoing issue, I'm going to safely assume that supervisor and administration are unaware of it, and it should be brought to their attention, because I know all of my administrators take it very seriously and will hold teachers accountable. However, to just share general specifics about does nothing to help the situation. So I would encourage any parents that you, either if you've experienced it, and you, the general you, or if people have discussed it with you, they should be directing those concerns to the proper administration, and it'll be addressed.
I just want to clarify, like, when I say teachers, I don't mean the entire district. You know, there's
No,
only-
not the district, but
there's only,
even,
you know,
even to say that it happens more than occasionally.
a handful.
If it is, then that would be disappointing, but I would also know and expect that the administration would handle it appropriately when made aware of it.
Kurt, in that example, if you could please get the information to Mr. McQueenie about the details that you know,
Sure.
so he can pursue it
Mhm.
and handle it with our administrators. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a few questions from Neve. She's just trying to speak, and
Okay.
I guess we can't hear her. She asked if the schools can share staff if there is a shortage in a building.
Can the school share staff?
Can they share staff?
As in teachers or as in?
Teachers.
The answer to that is yes, but very limited. If you have concerns at the high school, which in the past couple days, the high school absences have been high, you can't take a first grade teacher and bring them up. We have issues of certification, and even when you get to middle school, high school, you could potentially have coverages, which we do with our teaching staff now. When they have duty periods or prep periods in their schedule, they are asked to come and cover classes. However, certification issues at varying levels become a problem. Some of our middle school teachers, depending upon the certifications they have, are not able to even go up to the high school level. So, and it also makes it physically impossible to, if a teacher is teaching their current schedule, as an example at the middle school, to drive up to the high school for a quick period cover and come back down would not work, which logistically would be almost impossible.
And the other question is, do teachers have to give proof about having to quarantine?
They report it to us, yes, and then they get quarantined. So depending on the quarantines, and as I alluded to earlier, the quarantining rules is its own short semester college course as it is. But they do all of the quarantines, all of the absences are confirmed by our school nurses to determine if they are COVID or non-COVID related. And then depending upon the answers we receive, staff are directed accordingly. So at this time, as an example, we have staff that are using sick days to get their vaccinations, which we strongly encourage. to help them feel more comfortable to be in the schools. We also have staff members that are experiencing symptoms. I can speak from firsthand experience after my second shot to have headache, low-grade fever, and aches. We are directing staff to stay home for those. If staff members are considered a close contact, which predominantly has been happening outside of the school, there is a 14-day quarantine period as dictated by the Department of Health. Also, if there is anybody in their household that is getting a COVID test, they are directed to quarantine until the results of that test are back. With a large staff that we have and with the current community spread that we are exhibiting in Sussex County and Sparta, we are now seeing that impact in terms of the teachers available to physically be in the school.
And how are staff absences communicated to the students? I mean, sometimes teachers may, call out last minute, and so that's kind of poses a problem. But, when students are coming in and come to find out that, teachers are not.
So they're physically, the communication protocols that Mr. Spring has in place in working collaboratively with the content supervisors is physically putting a sign on the door. So when students go to the classroom, the door should be locked, dark, and with a sign that says McQueenie's Chem class, go online today in the cafeteria. Secondly, there should be postings in the Google Meets. So when students go on, they are aware what's happening, or in the Google Classroom. So there are attempts to communicate, but depending upon students checking that, and then some of the other things that happen, including opening a door, someone opening a door, trying to be, accommodating to students, not realizing the door shouldn't be open because the teacher's not there, have added to some of our communication issues.
Anything else? Thank you.
We're done.
Okay, and that concludes new business. Moving on to item number 20, public comment number 2. Please state your name and address for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. Do we have anybody?
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. My name's Melissa Fagerston. I'm 10 Alder Drive. I would like to add something I think is important to what Mr. Zittimer was saying about the role of the board members, specifically to Sparta. Cultivating an educational environment that fosters the social, emotional well-being of all students, enabling every child to feel supported and valued. And I think that's important that we remember that that's what Sparta is. My husband and I are both alumni of this great school district. I emailed the board this week, so you've all seen my name in your emails. My daughter is a senior here at Sparta High School. She's my second child to come through the district. She is in cohort A. She was in this week. She had 3 days of sitting in the cafeteria on her Google Meet, not with her teachers. Specifically, one of her classes has been being taught by the in-class support teacher and not the head teacher. I would appreciate, as a parent, if it would be communicated with me that my child's teachers will not be in school that day, if the parents would be made aware that there's a significant number of staff missing from the high school. That is not the social and emotional high school experience for my daughter that I would like for her to have. I'm sending her to school to see her teachers, to form relationships, to have some connection to the school system that she grew up in. So when she shows up for class and she is sitting in a cafeteria with multiple other classes also sitting on their Google Meets, you can understand my disappointment and how I feel having her in this school system. So as Mr. McQueenie shared with me and shared with everyone here, we had 39 people absent from the high school yesterday. I am very hopeful that this is not continuing, much further than next week, and I'm hopeful that both cohorts will be able to come together and there will be enough staff for that to happen at the end of March, as my senior is really looking forward to it. But I would just like to express my feelings about the significance of this situation within the high school and the impact that it is having on my daughter. I can only speak for her, but I can imagine on many of the students. So I do urge you to please be more transparent with the parents about the situation and the amount of teachers that they have out, so that we can successfully support our children and give them options and decide for ourselves whether we feel like it's necessary for them to actually be in the school. Thank you.
Mrs. Fagerstein, before you go, I want to thank you for your email this week. It shed light and shared information with the full board that we didn't know all the details of, for example, your daughter's experience. It will allow us to do our jobs better. So really, thank you very much for that. And I can tell you, as soon as I read your email, I was on the phone with Mr. McQueenie saying, you know, what can we do? All hands on deck. This is not acceptable. And I think as a board, we're right there with you, trying to correct the situation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Queenie and Mr. Spring both communicated with me instantly, but as a fellow community member, I felt like it was our board. It was important for me to express the situation to our board as well. So
sure.
Thank you for taking the time.
Sure. Thank you.
Darlene Blandina, 5 Rose Lane. First, I just wanted to thank Mrs. Schock and Mrs. Rodriguez and the board members who put the unified basketball team together. Today, I have a daughter who is out of district, and today her and my other daughter, who is a senior at the high school, were able to have practice together. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked up, but it was...
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was
great.
so
That's awesome.
beautiful to see the kids being able, all of them, to interact together. So I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for putting together the program.
Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. I also wanted to talk about, there's 2 bills, I don't know if the board is aware, one in the Senate and one in the Assembly, that will allow special need kids who are aging out this year and next year to continue in school for another year. This will allow the students to have the transition of learning their vocational training and life skills that they've missed out on the past year. So I would like to ask, as a board, if you would discuss this and consider supporting the bill. I have some information on the representatives and who you can send, whether you want to do it as a board or personally, but I think it's really important for students who are aging out of the program. This has already been passed for typical students. Governor Murphy in June passed into law PL 2020 C42, which is the bridge program that allows current juniors and seniors to stay in high school for another year. So I think that it should also be allowed for the special needs children who are aging out, who also lost a whole year of school. So I would appreciate it if anyone's interested. I do have papers here, Kim. I don't know if I can.
Do you have a bill number for that?
Yes, it's Bill A 5366 and S 3434. And right now, it's just in the hearing stages. But the issue is obviously it's critical in timing. So they are going on what they call a budget break soon. So it's something they're trying to get pushed through quickly so that it can be done before the end of the year. So just trying to get, as many community supporters to write to the sponsors of the bill and our local legislators to get that passed.
That's thank you so much for bringing that to our attention.
Sure.
Can you email me those papers?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
sure.
if you email it to me, I'll share it with the full board.
Okay, perfect.
Thank
And
you.
I also wanted to congratulate all the Educators of the Year recipients and the Seal of Biliteracy. And just one comment, I don't know if the presentation was on, I guess it wasn't on the agenda that we can see it. So just in the future, it might just be helpful if there's some way that it can be for us to look at also.
Yeah, so
because it's a little frustrating.
I have written a note to talk to Mr. McQueenie about how we can do that better next time.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's our first time in this setup.
Yeah.
The stage has been filled up until a couple of weeks ago, which is why we haven't been in here. So now that all the tables that are in the cafeteria are there and not here, we could be in here. But I agree, we need to be able to project to us and to the audience at the same time.
Yes, thank you. And I also just wanted to say to Mr. McQueenie, I know he's leaving the end of June, and I just want to say best of luck, and I appreciate, all the communication. I think the one thing as a parent, and I speak for, I think, a lot of parents, the one thing that we all appreciated was your responsiveness. It didn't matter if it was a Saturday, a Sunday, you always emailed back. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, do we have anyone else for public comment? So we have one more person coming. Do we have anybody else, or will she be the last? If you could just raise your hand if you're going to come up and speak. Okay, we'll close it out with this speaker.
Good evening, Leonora DeStefano, 12 Tracy Lane. First, I'd like to congratulate all of the educators for their awards. Actually, all the teachers, or the majority of the teachers, have done, I think, a very good job during this whole virtual world. The students have been doing the best they can, but unfortunately, it seems like a lot of things are falling under the cracks. And tonight, the presentation by Mr. Zittimer, honestly, as a parent, it's really frustrating because these are things that we know. We know what the responsibility of the board is. People who come to Board of Ed meetings, people who tune into the Board of Ed meetings know what the board is responsible for. So I thank you for your efforts, but as a parent and as a taxpayer, I'm actually significantly and truly worried about what I've just heard. And I've had experiences, well, my son sat in a math class without a teacher. There was a note, no teacher. They went into Google Docs. I'm like, all right, but I was home. I work from home. My son is in 7th grade. How many kids in Sparta are home without a teacher on the other side? How many kids are going into the building and there isn't a teacher in the classroom? And by the way, I want to add, I don't like using the teachers. Do not lump them all in, okay? How many teachers do we currently really have? Do we have a staffing issue? Because it sounds to me like we do. And then there needs to be some level of honesty. And again, thank you, Mr. Zittimer, for your clarifications, but as a parent, I can only come to the Board of Ed and ask them questions. We can email the administrators, but we should all be working together. Somehow there has to be a better flow of communication, because the only people that are getting caught in the crossfire are our children and the teachers who actually honestly want to be there. I'm sure this is the minority. I'm sure this is not the majority. I don't understand what's going on with your building administrators and your endless list of directors if we have kids who are going to school and there's not, we have no idea. Why hasn't this been communicated to us? And I'm sorry, Ms. Bragg, you sent 2 letters to us this year, 2. One, directing a comment that a Sparta resident did not make. And by the way, Sparta has never condoned violence. In the 15 years that I've lived here, our educators, our families have promoted safety, inclusiveness, choose kindness, good character traits, along with our building principals, along with our guidance counselors. So thank you for telling us something we know, okay? You also told us that you have a Herculean task of reopening. The people who have had a Herculean task are the students and the teachers who are actually working and trying to receive an education. So somewhere, somehow, all of you have to communicate what is the fourth marking period really going to look like. Because I don't want to send my high school student to have him or her sit in a cafeteria. If you have a staff issue, then just go virtual. Just admit it. You're wasting our time. And that social and emotional learning, I don't know what it feels like to go to school and see no teacher present. I don't know what it's like to be in kindergarten and learn how to read. But that's the environment our children have been for over a year. On the anniversary of COVID-19, our 6th through 12th grade had the accessibility to possibly 20 to 25 in-person instruction. Our K through 5th grade had the access to maybe 40 days of in-person instruction. There's 180 days in the school year. We are failing our students. And obviously, we're failing our teachers as well if there's such lack of communication here. There's something truly wrong here. So I don't know what next year is going to look like because now we have a new team of administrators who may come in here and change everything around, people who were not involved with the reopening. I still don't understand why we didn't hire Mr. McQueenie, and it's no offense to the incoming superintendent. It is nothing personal. I just don't understand how we kept him as superintendent, acting superintendent, involved from top to bottom in reopening our schools, yet you didn't hire him. And people are asking that question on social media. So Kim, why don't you answer that question? And based on Mr.
I'm sorry,
Zitterman's,
I just couldn't hear your last part. Did you say
you
Kim?
pick and choose what you want to respond to us. So on
I
social,
couldn't hear you, that's all.
oh, why did we not hire Mr. McQueenie?
Can you hold on a second, please? So with Mr. McQueenie's permission, I will answer that question. This is a personnel matter, and as a rule, we do not discuss personnel matters, but I do have his permission. Mr. McQueenie chose not to interview for the position. He pursued and was awarded a superintendency in a different district that is, his family is not part of. It was a personal choice on his behalf. He's beloved by everybody at this table, but we also support his decision to do what's right for his family.
She said more than 3 minutes, too.
Okay, so it's, thank you, but that's,
Thank you. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you for your response. Thank you.
Thank you.
no, we're done. Nope, hold on.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anything for the good of the order?
Yes.
I wanted to share, did you say for the good of the order?
I'm sorry?
Are we moving on to for the good of the order?
Go to the order.
For the good of the order?
Yeah, I'd like to share it.
Okay.
I just had another opportunity to visit Mohawk Avenue School and Helen Morgan School, and I just wanted to share it with you because, again, just from being in the buildings, it's kind of like things have arose that I think would be nice to share with the full board, but the experience is very similar as Alpine with these administrators. I can't tell you how great it is to walk around the building with the people that are in that building every day, and with Mr. McQueenie, who was very generous with his time. It was the first day that it was a full day of instruction, so they were extremely generous with their time, not knowing what the day was going to be like. But same experience as with Alpine with Mr. Leone. So much pride, so much respect spoken about the buildings, about the students, about the staff. They almost just talk about the facility as if it's kind of like their home, and it was very, very, it was just very encouraging to see them so sentimental about the place that they go to every day. At Mohawk Avenue, I was really encouraged to see all of the improvements that have been not affected by COVID. There's so much going on there. Flooring, like you mentioned in the budget presentation. The walkway out front is going to be great. It's going to allow more wheelchair access, which is going to be much more easier in the front of the building. The playground obviously is a huge improvement. But one area that I never got to see before on a tour was the OT-PT space. And that building is being very old. I just knew that it was in the former locker rooms of of Mohawk Avenue School. But seeing the actual space and what they've done on the inside is so nice. They've really been able to take the spaces that they have in each of these elementary schools and turn them into environments that are warm and friendly and engaging, and that was just really great to see as well. As far as Helen Morgan, which we visited later in the day, there was a lot of outdoor spaces that are going to get a lot of upkeep and improvement. Maybe they'll get some use this year. There's a lot of security upgrades that I hadn't seen since I had been there myself personally. So a lot had been going on at Helen Morgan also. Throughout our discussion from Alpine to Mohawk Avenue to Helen Morgan, one theme that we seem to kind of keep coming back to with Patrick and I is the moving towards a more inclusive model in the classroom. That just kept coming up for me, and I think that that is so great that we are moving towards that model. I was really, really proud to hear that every school in the middle school and high school has been moving towards a more inclusive model year after year. And all the administrators across the board are completely supportive of that and enthusiastic about it. That was really, really great to talk about with each administrator in each school. However, I couldn't help but notice at Helen Morgan how prevalent stairs were and the lack of handicap access and accessibility in that building, how it was designed years and years and years ago. But this, me talking about it now, I promise you, is not a criticism of any administrator, superintendent, past, present. It's not about that. If anything, I feel like the accommodations for students that need them are provided in the most creative ways. They are literally, if anything, what the staff has done to make sure that they're have the capability to participate in everything, I would say deserves recognition for the way they are able to accommodate them. However, the building being the building, it's just kind of something that's, in my opinion, kind of if we are moving towards more inclusive environments, more everything, just really needs to be addressed. So I guess I just kind of wanted to bring that up now after seeing it myself. But like I said, they are, specifically at Helen Morgan, I guess, but at all the elementary schools, in the spaces that they have, it's almost like the epitome of doing what they can with what they have. It's incredible seeing all of the decals on the windows and the fun little ways they've illustrated in the hallway, how the traffic patterns have to go, and making the most of what these conditions are with the pandemic and everything, and making these spaces into what they are, which are like these really wonderful, engaging, educational, nurturing environments. So, but having said that, knowing that the budget has been worked on a lot and is still being tweaked, is still being adjusted, and will continue to be, it kind of all comes back to that original question of the status of the elementary schools and the future and what we're doing as a board and what we care about. But I don't know, in speaking to Patrick as a follow-up also, you know, he had said that maybe you could discuss with Buildings and Grounds some solutions or some alternatives. I don't know if that, I am not an engineer or an architect or anything like that. I would be the first to say I don't have the answer, but I would just encourage that discussion to kind of be had as soon as possible, even if it's temporary, even if it's until the decision is made of what's happening in the future with the elementary schools. But I really just think that that's something that should be addressed as soon as possible in any way that's possible, whether it's permanent or temporary. So I just wanted to share with the full board as maybe a discussion that can be had throughout this budget time, if there's any ideas or thoughts or, but having said that, I was really encouraged by all of the discussions we were able to have at each of those schools. And it's really astounding how much those people in that building, those buildings every day care so much about those students that they really transform whatever they need into whatever they need. And I just feel like as a board, we should give them everything that they need as much as we can. So that's all.
Great, thank you, Jen. Do we have any other for the good of the order?
Yes, I have something from Neve.
Okay.
This is to Patrick. She said she thanks you for your guidance, knowledge, and hard work and commitment, and she knows you will do great things. She's sad to see you go, and she wishes you good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? So I'm going to wrap it up by echoing what Neve just said. Mr. McQueenie, I wish you all the best. Very sad to see you go. And I really respect your decision, and I appreciate your allowing me and the board to share your personal choice and what was behind it, because that's not something that you needed to do. And I think it will give, information to the community will be good. And I just really respect your decision in putting your family first. And I've certainly enjoyed working with you, and I know we're going to work very hard together over the next couple of months. And as I've seen you work in this transition since Mr. Beck was appointed, I continue to just be extremely impressed with your commitment to this district, even though you knew and I knew that you would be leaving shortly. So thank you for all your commitment.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to, we are not going into executive session. We are going to adjourn. Do I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Kurt. Second?
Second.
Krista?
Yes.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good night, everybody.